achieve the same with the partnerships too. It's super, super important. We had actually done, we do classes out at our farm, but we got involved with the NRCS, USDA, and we had them, they wanted to do a class out at our farm. And so we actually started, we're out in Pinedale, and we actually started at the community center, and the extension program was there. There were engineers there. We also had engineers back at our place getting ready for the group. Because once we were done at the community center, everybody was driving to our farm down the road, and then it was going to continue on there. And Paul and Michelle were there. It's kind of funny, once we finished at the community center, you see this line of cars taking off, and we're going, do they even know where we live? So we had to get on quads and race and get in front of them and go, no, this way. So it was pretty fun. But so back in, all right, so in 2016, we bought just over 19 acres in Pinedale. And we're beautiful, beautiful. Everything is pretty much lush green, except for right now because it's dried out. But that began our journey. And we bought we knew we wanted to grow our own food, and the plans were to have family compound. My daughter and I are both holistic healthcare practitioners, so food quality and healing naturally is super, super important to us. So we bought, right away, we ended up buying our first greenhouse through Zimmerman High Tunnels, and we're super pleased with them. They're every one of these ribs, we bought a 72-foot by 30-foot greenhouse. Was our first one. Every one of these ribs, so I think there's 13 of them, they're sunk almost 3 feet down. And so luckily, I had a very strong son and other friends that would come over, post pounding those, each one in all the way down. And we've learned, there's that learning curve. We've learned a lot along the way, but we were super excited when we got the first one in the ground. Our greenhouse is starting to go. So what we did up here, all right, so because we know the snow load up here, we went and spent the extra money for the W trusses. And I like Zimmerman's frames because even though they're arched, there's a little bit of a peak there. So when the snow comes, it actually is sliding off both sides really, really well. And what was funny on here, you can see she's got one of our friends who was building them before, and he came over to help us quite a bit. He was going around, this was one of your hip boards where you're going to be lacing your side curtains too. And he's doing right in there. Then he hands us one of his drills for us girls to start finishing the row. And her and I are both pushing all of our weight on this, trying to get one screw in. And we're going, what's the deal with this? And he goes, well, I gave you the one for the girls. And I said, give us that heavy duty. It went right out. So it's like, spend money on equipment. Don't go for the girls' equipment just because you're a girl. Otherwise, you're going to spend twice as long doing the job. So. And then here, this was the end walls. We had these sunk down in, dug them in, and in concrete too. You can do a metal framing on those. You get the option when you're getting a hold of Zimmerman to do that. This is the first time we ever went to anything like this, so we're framing it out. And that's my son, and then a neighbor up there. And then all of your plastic that comes with it, wherever it's hooked in, you have your C channels, and then you got wiggle wire going in there, and it holds it in pretty good, except, which we'll get to the except in a minute. Another very important thing is when you're going to have your high tunnels is you can go to, I believe it's Greenhouse Megastore, and you can get the 1-inch felt that has adhesive on one side. So we lined every one of our ribs so that, especially during the summertime, you got that sun going on those ribs with that metal underneath the plastic, it's gonna cut it if you don't. So that's gonna save you wear and tear. And we almost ended up in Taylor a few times. You have to be very, putting your, the plastic up is almost like okay, we got 10 minutes, hurry up, because of the wind. And so we were constantly battling. We would try and get one of the end walls up, and on this particular one where she's down there, we started, there was no wind, but it changed real quick. So it was quite interesting. And again, the children are always involved. So we would just string up, this was my youngest granddaughter at the time, and we just put baby packs on. Babies are involved. And they grow up with it. And so what's really cute is when we're doing educational programs now, her and I did a Valentine's event, and we were teaching people how to make their own pasta from flour and egg. And my granddaughter, who's now 7, was going around checking everybody's stoves. No, you need a little more water. So, because the kids grow up learning all of this stuff too. Now, the fun part is Jen and I decided to go to a Mother Earth News Fair in Seven Springs, Pennsylvania, the following September. And I'd never heard of NRCS before, and we learned about it there because it was a 3-day weekend, and they used to do 5 of them across the country. And there's like 150 different seminars set up every hour on the hour. You go from this one to this one to this one. From anything from your tractors, your wood chippers, and your splitters, or geothermal heating. It was the coolest thing. And that's where we first learned about the NRCS and their EQIP program, which is where you can apply to get a grant to get yourself high tunnels. So as soon as we get back, I'm applying. It was almost 3 years of me applying and reapplying and reapplying, because at that time, you had to have a DUNS number. I had to be registered with SAM, and there was all these little technicalities. And then because things were taking so long and being changed, I almost gave up. And then another gal got transferred to head up the local office up here, and she got a hold of me and says, "You want to apply?" I kind of rolled my eyes a little bit and said, "Right, fine." So we did it. Boom, we were right through. We were Arizona's #1 choice for a greenhouse for one of the high tunnels. And we were her first one, her first farmers, because she was used to working more with the ranchers. And the reason we got chosen was because we grow organic, because of the way our property is laid out. We're kind of in a little bit of a valley, but also because we were providing food for the community. And those were 3 things that were really, really important to them. So we got qualified, we learned a whole lot, and started our partnership with them then. And they really do so many different things. Day after Christmas of 2016 is when we finally got the last piece of the top on. And so we were really excited about that. And we knew as soon as we got the top on, it got pretty warm in there real quick. So the snow was melting right away. So then we had to get busy. So this one's there, and we're making our own, doing our own mulch. And what we wanted to do was utilize what was indigenous as much as we could on the property. We did test all these we did soil testing everywhere, and we were mostly just lacking a little bit in nitrogen. So that was an easy fix on that. But we started doing that. We tilled it all up. And when it came time we started off with raised beds. And when it came time, I had just taken my trailer, and we got a whole load down at Home Depot, and then we got the snow. So my trailer was not going to whip around and get down to the greenhouse. So we had to utilize our quads at the time, and lots of trips back and forth. But again, the babies are always involved. They're all this big now. And what we decided to do is we created this little screen so that all the dirt that was going down in there was going to be really fine too. And a lot of people, does anybody grow tomatoes? Now we've tried a lot of different ways. One of the most common is there'll be the strings and you can plant the tomatoes to it as you're going up. We started off, what we did was on each bed where we were having tomatoes, we sunk just wood boards down in there, and then we strung back and forth. And then after that, we kept trying all these different ways. We tried stringing it up. This was our favorite way. It was so easy. Once we had the boards up and the strings up, it was just trimming. I didn't have to keep clamping anything. And again, you do what is going to work for you. Wait, I have whole bags of all those plants. So we don't use them. So our second greenhouse was the one that we got through the NRCS, and having family and friends around to help you. They're actually very easy to build. They're just very, very tedious. There's a lot of drilling and screwing and putting parts all together. So we had friends come up all the time, and we were barbecue. We always have to offer to cook, and we're gonna have all these things and sit around the campfire too to make it a little more alluring. Things that we learned from the first greenhouse to the second one. So you're putting, do you know the post pounding, or the guys were?
We make automatic post hole pounders.
Motorized. So we borrowed one. And I don't know, probably pounding, gosh. So you're probably, I think our original post that we were pounding down, because we had 6-foot sides, and then you have your arch. So they were almost 9 feet that you had to pound down, each one almost 3 feet. The guys did. But then when we borrowed this motorized post pounder, it was probably
less than 30 seconds.
Yeah. Right in. Right. So I highly recommend, if you're going to do anything like this, you get one of those motorized ones, because it doesn't start pounding until you actually have it on top. But she was pregnant, so she just sat in the supervised. Yeah, she supervised.
Home Depot rents them for $100 a day.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about the learning curves. So on the first one, to get the top over, we would have the plastic, we'd have everybody lined up on one side, and then you have your tennis balls with your rope around the edges of it, and then they toss it over, and on the other side, the people are pulling it up to do that. Second greenhouse, we figured out another way. So everything was, we had, still had all the tennis balls and little rocks tied around the edge with the ropes. But we threw that over, and we weaved into 3 different places, and we hooked it up to my tow hitch on my truck. And so everything was even. And I just started moving forward a little bit. That thing went over like butter, and we're going, I won't even do this before. So easy, so easy. So very time saving. Talk to other people. We have people come out to our greenhouses all the time. So we're always giving them tips and tricks and stuff. Some of our challenges.
Obviously, the snow,
Yeah.
the wind, the weather has pretty much been our biggest challenge the last couple of years with all the water we've been getting. That's been fun.
Yeah. And her and I, we have gone from, we started off with the raised beds, and we've got some other pictures showing that, but then we decided, well, we could probably get more per linear foot if we just go straight in the ground. Now, the thing with when you're qualifying to apply to get a grant for the cost share program to get a high tunnel, it's not, you can't have everything in pots. It has to be in ground. It can be in raised beds or in the ground, but it can't be a whole greenhouse full of pots. That's part of the stipulation with that. So yeah, snow's been fun. But as long as the sun is out, those things are warm inside. More. But you get below 0, it's going to be freezing in there too. You grow year round? We do now. We had it until this last year, but you have to pick and choose what you're growing. It has to be cold hardy. And even though we're still inside of the greenhouse, so we'll do greens, spinaches are good, strawberries are good, all of your root veggies, but we still have to put row covers over things when it's super, super cold to keep that extra frost off.
We tried numerous ways to heat inside that greenhouse or greenhouses, but because of them being so tall, it's all lost.
Well, and here's another lesson learned, and for some reason, lessons are always expensive. But so this was our first greenhouse, and I had a neighbor. So the day after Christmas, we get it up. Yay, we're all excited. So right before Easter, the following year, a neighbor comes over and says, "Oh my God, are you okay?" And I went, "I'm fine." Why? And she goes, "Well, your greenhouse." And I'm, "Oh my God." The wind ripped our top right off. 4 months later, the wind ripped our top off. So what comes, like the frames are astounding. They're awesome. The curtains are really, really thick, and they're on pulley systems going up and down. But because of learning that 6 mil plastic that comes with it, I wouldn't waste any money on it whatsoever. We got recommended to another company called Reef Industries, and they do greenhouse covers. So we went from the original 6 mil plastic to a 16 mil 3-ply corded. That's good. It's really good. So yeah, that was fun, but I will tell you, it's way heavier. So trying to get that, we didn't know about the tying it to the tow hitch yet. So trying to get that other one up, that was really hard. This has been one of our other biggest challenges. I think it was probably our 3rd year. We started noticing these little bugs in there. We went to the nursery, we took pictures, and nobody knew what they were. They're blister beetles. And they can drop your horses and your livestock. If it gets in their feed, it'll kill them.
We have red striped ones.
Do you?
They're hideous. They look like some kind of Gothic cartoon character.
They will wipe
Tiny
you
little
out
names on their
super
back that
fast.
don't work.
Super, super fast. They will wipe you out. We had, when I think they first came actually, the year when we were doing straight in ground. And we're going out to the greenhouse, and it's like, we're seeing these, they almost look a little bit violet. And it's like, oh, what are those? And we're just kind of watching them, not really paying, didn't know what they were. The next day, that whole row was almost a skeleton. It was wiped out so fast. So, and then what we've learned, because we grow organic, we can't just go in there and spray pesticide on there. We just can't do it. There was an organic pesticide or herbicide that was all different essential oil blends that I had shipped up from Tucson, which kind of sort of worked. But for these, what really worked was using that, spraying it first, and then I have a flour sifter. I would take food grade diatomaceous earth over it as well, and then wipe that out. And so that's what really kind of controls that. Same thing with the aphids. But what do we do with the aphids?
Neem oil worked pretty well with them. It's just we had to make sure not to use it on a sunny day because it'll burn your plants.
What's it?
Neem. But we also we would go down to the nursery in Star Valley, actually, because we used to live in Payson, so we had a really close relationship with them. We get a bunch of ladybugs too, right? Because the ladybugs will go after your aphids.
Anything you're going to spray, if you spray every 2 days, it'll kill them in their life cycle, because their life cycle is short. You have to do the spray every 3 days if you're going to spray. Ladybugs are the best.
We like ladybugs.
Yeah, and everyone knows what omri is, right?
Oh, omri?
I said,
Do you know what?
yeah, stamped on a lot of organic stuff that you're able to use in organic gardening. It's, I think, the Organic Material Review Institute.
Yeah,
And it's basically a stamp of
organic. So if you're going to put something outside that you're going to purchase, make sure you have that omri label on there. So especially if you want to get certified organic, which we are considered in transition for being certified organic, you have to be able to, verify the 3 years of it. So you have to be very, very careful what you use on there. And plus, you don't want all the chemicals on there anyhow that you're going to be sitting there eating too. But we were actually, there are, correct me if I'm wrong, but there still are no certifiers within the state of Arizona. Is that correct? So our closest one was Northern California. And we were getting it all set up to bring them out. I was going to have to pay for their flight, their rental car, their hotel, their meals, everything to bring them out. And we were almost there. And then COVID hit. So then it just, everything escalated from there. But however, NRCS does have, if you are going for your certification, there is another one of the amazing programs where you will get funded or reimbursed for up to a certain amount for that certification. The same thing goes with your high tunnels. It's not, they're buying the whole thing. It's a cost share program. So whatever size you get, there's a calculation. And then they'll times the square footage by this figure, and then that's the amount that you're going to get to put towards doing that. Yeah. So it's not the whole thing. And then also, again, after COVID, all the steel prices went up, and it's been crazy. And gopher and deer. Now, what we had to do, we thought that we originally had prairie dogs going in there, but it turned out they were gophers, and they're tunneling under the greenhouses. We're seeing all these little mounds and stuff. Even in raised beds, we first started off with the 2 by 10 by 10s. No. So what we had to do after going from in-ground to in the beds, back to in-ground, back to beds, is we had to get 1/2-inch hardware cloth. And so our beds are all 4 feet wide. So we would just get the big rolls that was at least 4 feet and cut it and then build the bed on top of that. So it was the second time we built the wood beds. But then after we did all of that and filled them back up, gophers can jump certain high. Oh gosh. So all the beds were taken apart again. Yeah. And the same thing with the deer. Now, I just had a neighbor yesterday tell me, which I haven't tried this, but they have an outside garden, and you always want to at least go up 7 feet. They had 6-foot fencing with another wire going around it, but she told me that they took just like some chicken wire about down to here and just kind of angled it down to the ground around their small little area where they were growing, because she said that the deer can only, the depth perception, they have to be right up to it, and if they can't get up to that fence, then she goes, they'll bed next to it, but they won't even attempt to go over it because of their depth perception on it. Oh, that's good to know. So, and sharing stuff like that with everybody is really, really good and important, because it'll save you a lot of very costly mistakes that we've all done already. So here's another one of the times when we thought we'll go in ground, thinking we're going to get more per linear foot. It didn't actually work out that way for us. We prefer doing the raised beds because we have a little bit more control over the crop. You've got a little bit better water retention in there, and saves a little bit on the weed control as well. And then again, we couldn't put any hardware cloth down underneath here to keep the gophers from coming out. We would come back out and there'd be a whole row of spinach or something that literally was sucked down into the holes. So, and we were doing an outside area. So I had my grandkids out there planting corn. Well, they're still there, but it's just the hardware cloth. Now, and people say, oh, you just put bubble gum down there. That might be the other species of gophers that don't like gum, but we tried that. We actually, in some of our spots outside, I had somebody tell me the sulfur from a flare will make them go away. And so we put a flare down there and covered up the hole and had them back.
Yeah, you were supposed to shoot them with a flare.
Yeah, we just put it in the hole. They don't like the sulfur.
Something I would like to try, somebody told me to put some dry rice in there, and when they eat the rice, same thing with birds, they take a drink of water, the rice swells up and makes love. I thought that was fun.
I don't want to see them explode. Now, in our second greenhouse, which is the one that we got through the EQUIP program, we decided we were going to put everything we have into growing for the restaurants up here. Some of the local mom and pop grocery stores that really provide for the restaurants. So pretty much one at a time, over probably between 30 to 50,000 seeds. And what we did was we had in the second greenhouse, we had what we call like our little incubator area. So and I'll have one I can show you, but we covered it, low roof on it, covered it. That little area, which was probably like from here, I would have a heater in there for the seeds. And I would turn that on. So I was at least sprouting a lot of seeds. And we started in December of 2018. And we had all, it was going really well. They're all coming up. COVID hit and everything shut down. So our chickens ate really well. Our neighbors ate really well. We tried to sell what we could, but we took a beating from all of that. But we had a really cool setup. So we went and got all these different pots and stuff too. So this was a picture of her yet. One of the, okay, we got to rebuild the beds again.
I'm having to haul, we decided this last time as opposed to doing wood beds because of the price of lumber increase, we wanted to do cinder blocks. And that way they would last longer and you wouldn't have to keep eventually replacing the beds.
I had to go too high. So we learned to go a little bit higher than what their averages were the gopher can jump over. Because when we had the wood beds, they couldn't get underneath and steal anything. But I was noticing them in between the beds and then the little suckers were jumping over and back. So we had to go up higher, but the hardware cloth is super important. And we do 1/2 inch. And all I did was went onto Craigslist and I had to go to the valley for it. But I go down and just get big old rolls. And that's been the only thing that was really protecting us, because as farmers, and Paul and Michelle know this all too well too, or with anybody in agriculture, you don't get a weekly paycheck. You spend months and months and months and months preparing everything for when you're going to be harvesting or when you're taking something to market. And anything could happen. We've had right before we were going to harvest a whole bunch of stuff, either we had a freeze or there was a new bug, we got wiped out. So now you're starting all over again. Good thing we love what we do.
So on your concrete beds there, what did you use to fill them for soil?
Well, we tilled up a lot of the soil that we already had been making. Like I said, we do a lot of composting. So we'll have the compost material and anything that we're pulling out of there that the chickens don't get, or right now we're pulling a lot of stuff out because we're at the end of the season and we just had a freeze. All of that stuff goes composting. It goes into bins so that next season when we're going to start replenishing them, but we do a lot of our own soil, our mulching, and I would be really careful going to get bales of straw to mix straw in there if you're wanting to, well, just regardless, but especially if you're wanting to be certified organic, because you don't know, more than likely those bales of straw have the residue from all the pesticides from all the thousands of acres that's been sprayed. So you want to be really careful about doing that. Uh-oh. So now I've been told, I don't know, one of our neighbors who also works with a lot of natural stuff has told me that they have a product or can get a product that is a natural product that they can put in the soil of any of their beds to neutralize any chemicals and get the chemicals out of it. So I
Call me
can.
later.
What?
Call me later.
Well, yeah. So, but these are just different things that we've done to try and save our crops. And even in spite of it all, this was some of the radishes we pulled up right when all the restaurants and everything hit down. We're pulling them up going, I can't go to farmer's market. They haven't started yet. I'm not supposed to be going out on the street corner. So we had a lot of radishes. But they were really pretty, really pretty. And our green butter lettuce. Now, all of your, as far as for any winter, your lettuces, your spinach, your kales, your Swiss chards, your collards, they all do really well. So you can grow them year round, but you do have to take precaution. And this is just at some of the markets that we're at. And Paul and Michelle be right across from us with, oh, they were awesome with all their colors too. Again, this is on the outside of our fence. So that they give you the signs to put up there so anybody going by knows that you are working with them, and we're very proud to show that off because they do have so much information. And when we had them out, we did the thing last October at the community center and our place. They're speaking at the community center, and her and I are in the back going, I didn't do that. Oh my God, they do that too? Oh my God. Because at the markets, we would have one of our tables with all of the literature. And Leanne was always refilling so that we could pass out and encourage other people, grow your own food, grow your own food. So, and then this, my granddaughter, a number of years ago, the kids would come up with us too. And man, she would have all, because she was so cute, all these guys would be coming up and, what do you have? And so she could tell, oh, you need this, and you need some of these, and you need some of these, and they're just handing her money, and then she turns around, oh, look, they gave me money. There you go, baby. So you kind of want to have the kids participate for a lot of different reasons. And then here again, there's grandkids. This is her little one's going to be 3 on Halloween here on Monday, but it doesn't matter if you got a baby or not, those kids are involved. And it is such a great thing. We do have a program. Do we have one of the slides on there? What's the next one? Okay. Because we love working with kids so much, we have what we call ELF, our ELF program, which is Educating Little Farmers. So we have the kids come out. This is actually at the casino in Payson. They had us come down there and they said, we want you guys to have a booth. And we weren't quite sure what kind of booths are we going to have. You know, I can't bring the chickens in or bring anything in. So just kind of last minute, I brought this tub. I had different bags of soil. We brought in different kinds of seeds, whether they were peas or beans or corn, something big that the kids could. Yes. And they had, the whole event was about, the kids had a little card. This was right before Christmas, and Santa Claus was there at the casino. The kids had to visit each booth, get their little card punched, and go on to the next and the next. And when it was all punched, then they got to go up to Santa Claus and get a toy. So here I'm thinking that we want you to come up and do this for the kids. So we had a whole spiel done. No, kids want their dirt in, put the seed in, they want to go on to the next one. But what was really fun about it was I think this booth behind us, they were doing like a game, a ring toss thing. So after they left us with their little seeds, and they really got a big kick out of it, they'd go back there to do their little ring toss and the girls would say, well, here, we'll hold those. No, they wouldn't let their seeds go. And I heard from the casino and some of the management after that, they were going, you guys were such a hit. And so many parents didn't even know what tomatoes grew on or how any of this stuff grows. So it's also very educational for the parents too. And it was really fun that we were able to make that little bit of a difference. Again, we do a lot of educational programs on there. And inside of our greenhouse, you can't really see in here too much, but we've also learned to grow vertical. And so like if this is one of our beds here, and we got another, so this is the center aisle, anything that's going to vine, we just plant right along this edge, not that whole bed, just right along there. And we have netting that goes over every one of the arches. So anything that's going to vine is just going to grow up. It's a space saver, and we can grow a lot more too. Plus it looks really cool when people come over and tour it, and they're just like, wow, this is. So we have fun with it. We were featured. She just got, all right, so this is 4 years ago then for Maverick magazine. She just found out that she was pregnant. And then Amy, you guys know Amy who runs Maverick. She was just, she's been doing the Maverick magazine, publisher and editor for almost 20 years. She just found out she was pregnant too. So they both have little boys. Yeah. And then we were in Green Living magazine last year. Let's see. Let me come back to that for a second. Anybody have any questions?
A couple questions that were actually emailed to me. One is, when you work with NRCS, can you pick your vendor for your greenhouse, or do they give you a list?
It has to be an approved vendor. So, I mean, we've tried, Zimmerman's is out of Missouri, and shipping is not cheap. So that's been one of the biggest things. Even when I think for our first greenhouse, we were piggybacking on another shipment that was coming from Missouri. There was another man who was in Flagstaff buying one, so he was supposed to be coming to our place. We were splitting the cost. I was still spending $1,000 on shipping. And our neighbor, actually it was the second one, but our neighbor who was being a dealer for Zimmerman's, they found it cheaper to fly to Missouri, rent a truck to bring them all back rather than having them shipped. So we've actually been, we've discussed slightly with them. It's a matter, because we would love to have a local manufacturer here. And we discussed it slightly with them. It's a matter of getting the, somebody who can bend the pipe and then have it shrinking down to put them together. So that's been the biggest thing, but it does have to be engineered approved. You cannot go build your own greenhouse and be a part of the program at all. So, because, which I understand, they're not going to give money out to you for something that the first wind comes along and there it goes. So, and we've had other friends of ours who, you know, I just bought this greenhouse kit down at some local somewhere, and they're showing all these pictures. I just got this put up, and we're all going, oh, okay. Well, it's beautiful. Make sure you frame on the inside too, and you got to really, really reinforce that, because one of those winds is going to come along and absolutely. What's that? Yes. Yeah. So
I use my solar panels as my walking field and my shop.
you do. Yes. And so, yeah, Paul and Michelle are both inside and outside. And, you know, the benefit of having a greenhouse is yes, your seasons can extend, but don't assume just because you're growing something in the greenhouse that it's fully protected, because it's not. So what was it? It was, actually it was the summer of 2020. is when we decided to expand, and we plowed outside almost another half an acre to be seeding and planting, and we put we're over 300. We had them inside too, but we had an additional almost 300 tomato plants and pepper plants we were putting in the outside area that we just did. So and the weather was really good. We're watching the weather, but okay, we should be good. We should be good. So kind of middle to the 3rd week of May, we put them outside to really start getting them going. June 8th and 9th, we got snow. We lost everything. So you gotta be really careful about outside. You can't control it as much. So, I mean, and I even had row covers over it. Yep. So, but there's, again, reiterating, it's really, really, really important to have friends and family be involved, especially kind of like the old barn raising, offer food, do a barbecue or something that helps. But there's so many good things about the different programs that they have that we had no idea, even though we've been working with them for years, until we had that thing at the community center last year, and then they came to our place. We're just all going, I had no idea. So, and even finding out more stuff today. This one here has been the one who's done mostly all of the soil, putting the soils together, and then once you mention cover crops and that kind of stuff.
I've been experimenting with some. I don't particularly like alfalfa for our setup because it has such a deep taproot and it pulls on our hardware cloth. But I do love clover as a nitrogen fixer. Is everyone familiar with cover crops and green manures? It's basically just a plant that you grow in your off season and then you chill it under for additional organic.
Only this, because we decided this past winter I'm going to try and grow year round, see how I can do, because the clover was already in there and I'm seeding in between. I don't want to do that again. That was really rough. Because the clover just took me over and everything. But we also, another thing that we are huge fans of is companion planting. And why you talk about that? And why companion planting is so important.
Yeah, friends are good. It's certain ones together to enhance their benefits and to deter pests and just help as an ecosystem have everything grow all together.
We have the best crops when we're putting things together. And some of my best basil and cilantro, as far as the herbs go, is when I have planted the basil in with my tomatoes, growing like crazy. Same thing with my zucchini squash. I decided to put cilantro in there. The biggest cilantro, I mean, it was just growing crazy. So the plants, what's that?
Zucchini.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to try that.
Yeah. Get in with the zucchini. Well, I didn't have any zucchini this year because I am in an RV, so I'm limited, and I didn't want to heat that section of the greenhouse where we had our little incubator. So most of everything got started, but I actually was going out there on some really warm days, and I kept seeding, and then I'm going out the next day or watering. Turns out Mouse has been going in there and digging up all my seeds and taking them. So he decided he wanted to go to heaven and be with all of his millions of cousins and everything. So he did that. But it is very challenging. You really, really have to love what you do. And we love what we do. And because we're both holistic practitioners, we've also studied a lot of frequencies and energies. And plants are energies and frequencies. And that there was a study that you can go to YouTube. It's really interesting. I heard about this, where there was a very well-known polygraph tester. And he wanted to test the frequency of plants and what they would do. So he hooked up his equipment to some leaves on one of his plants. And he was, touching it. The needle didn't move a whole lot until he thought, I wonder what would happen if I put a match to one of the leaves. The needle went off the charts. And this is something that we've studied long before, but never really applied it to plants that much. But they're living organisms, they respond to your voice. So just as much as anything else, and we do this with our children's program without really saying the word bullying. We teach the children how important it is to talk nice to your plants because they are going to grow bigger and better. And it's true that they will. They do respond to it because your voice, your thought, everything is a vibrational frequency. But don't talk mean to them because then they're going to wither and die. And so the kids are kind of fascinated with that, but that's our kind of way of be nice to people. Your plants want you to be nice to them too. And her and I, talk to our plants all the time. Every morning we're going into the greenhouse, especially when it's harvesting time. What's your favorite thing?
Used.
Yes, we wanted to put piping, put some block out there and stuff. Yeah.
Noticed a huge change and gain by giving music and different types of music for veg and flowering. When your plants are flowering, you want something a little more raised here. We first found country and western in the early season, June, July, and then switch it over to a heavier rock. Plants just grow.
People think you're crazy for that, but it is true. They really, really do.
We've been doing it for a lot of years. It's a vibration there. I've read a lot on it.
One of my friends in the valley, when I was talking to her about that, she would have her potted plants on the windowsill over the sink in the kitchen. And I had made that comment to her, and she went, "Oh, I wonder why my plants there aren't doing very well because that's where the two kids stand and fight and argue with each other." So, do the plants somewhere else. Yes.
I got a packet of botanical interest brand seeds, and they have extra information on the inside. It was a packet of basil, and it said that in ancient Rome, you were supposed to scream curses at your basil to make it grow.
So basil's a little weird.
There's another thing for you, and thank you for that. A lot of people, if you're going to go buy seed packets just at the store, you're looking on their 45 days to maturity, 90 days to maturity. Do not go by that at all. At all. It's generally going to take you a lot longer, but you can look on those where it says zone 1, 2, zone 5. Well, zone 5 goes all the way across the US, and there's a lot of different elevations in the climates all in that same zone. So it's really important for you to give yourself extra time. That's why we usually start our seeds in December and January. And some of them that'll grow faster will start a little bit later, but we're starting in December and January for them. And we cannot reiterate enough to you, save your seeds. Save your seeds, save your seeds. Because another reason is when COVID hit, everybody became a farmer. You couldn't get chicks. I couldn't get a tiller. My tiller broke and I had the hardest time getting a new tiller. And all these little things that you just don't think about. But a lot of the seed companies, when you would go online to order, you couldn't get them. They were shut down because they were on overload. Because we were considered a commercial grower, because we grew for the markets, we were able to just phone them and get a hold of our regional rep and place our orders. But most people couldn't get seeds. And then the other benefit to saving your seeds is every year you regrow from those seeds, those plants are going to be more acclimated to your area and they're going to be stronger and better. So it's really important to save seeds. And I think we've got enough right now where if needed be, we could feed a community. So, but at least we have something to share. And we've been really busy. We're going through, just like the times are changing, we're adapting to, and we have some really, 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 really cool things coming up that I'm not going to tell you. But if you want to stay posted, you can go to our website, PinedoraFarms.com, and you can subscribe to it because that's how we're gonna be letting people know. I will tell you, here we are. So you probably can't see here, but was it not quite a year and a half ago, we had a film crew come out to our place that wanted to start doing a reality show. And so this one, so this is my daughter-in-law, and they're getting ready to film and interview and everything here. This one was her, and when they found out during my interview, I told them how we got the name Pinedora Farms. And it was from the movie Avatar. And, that had come out. I just thought it was a movie of blue people. I was not really interested in watching it until it was later that Christmas that we moved there. She was saying, Mom, you've got to watch this. And so when I watched it, I'm like, oh my God, I want to live on Pandora. I want the flying dragons and all this other stuff. And it's so much about what we are about with all of the energy and the frequency and the connection to nature is super important. So she just thought, she goes, well, since we're in the middle of the pine trees, why don't we call it Pinedale? So instead of Pandora, we're Pinedora. And that's how it came from. So the guys, the directors and stuff, they go, oh, this is so cool. We wish we knew earlier. They would have brought more props. But at midnight, they get her climbing, they have her in this tree. And we borrowed the bow and arrow. So we got a bunch of close-ups too, and then they put all these blue lights on it to make it look like she was a blue person. One of these little avatar people. So yeah, we've got a lot of really cool stuff that we're going to be doing. And it's going to be involving a lot more on the education aspect, which we love to do, especially for the kids. So any other questions? Anything? Yes, you don't like to talk to me.
I'm the quiet type. She's I'm a thinker.
Well, thank you guys so much. We appreciate it.